No sound. Darn it. I'm sorry about that. All right. Well, welcome to today's live stream. We're going to be talking about the set photos from James Gunn's filming of Superman, which is hitting theaters in 2025, which will introduce us to the Gunverse. All right. So this is different than the usual live stream. Although I will kick it off by gifting 5 memberships because it's the first live stream of the week. So hold on. Hold on, here it comes. All right, please, I'll be keeping an eye on your questions and comments during the live. But for the most part, thank you, Lawson. For the most part, I'll be interacting with you, more directly in the Q&A at the very end. Thank you, Gareth. Thank you, Danny. I've loaded up lots of photos for us to go over. We're going to go over this in depth. And just to start you off, I want you to know that I think that I think it's a mixed bag. I think what I always thought about James Gunn's take on DC, and that's that, hey Donner, thank you. Thank you, R. Thomas. You guys are so generous. But I thought from the very beginning that James Gunn would be a little bit too much of a fan. And then I think that he wouldn't forget to put his business hat on. Once again, it's a creative running DC instead of a producer, like Kevin Feige. And I think that, I said that I thought that James Gunn's DC would play very well to the back of the comic book store. Thank you, Seth. Where all the fans hang out, like the hardcore fans, the ones who know when Cal Mundi or whatever in Star Wars was born. I think that those fans will be very happy. But will the general public be interested in it? I think that remains to be seen. All right, so just to start you off, Superman was filming outside in Cleveland yesterday, and we got a fantastic look at Superman and Mr. Terrific, as well as the Daily Planet staff, and we're going to go over all of them. I have to tell you, I think that by far and away, the best looking one is Mr. Terrific. Hey, Jack Langboy. Some of you have been very defensive of Mr. Gathegi, which I think is very sweet. I still don't think that this character is what the character could be. I still don't love the casting. But I think that the character certainly looks interesting and looks the best of the group, by far. I think that with the right casting, like Idris Elba or the actor from, what was it? It's Snow. Like, isn't it Damson Idris or something, right? I think if they'd cast someone like that, I think Mr. Terrific could have been, or Aldous Hodge. That's right, CM. I was saying, why is Aldous Hodge Hawkman when he should be clearly Mr. Terrific? I feel if they had cast Mr. Terrific with a little more sex appeal, that's basically my thesis statement for this movie is that it's not sexy enough. With all due respect to the cast. It's a Land's End catalog, and, I don't think anybody wants comfortable Superman. I think that if they had cast a really sexy actor as Mr. Terrific, he could have gone to the level of, Black Panther. I think that would have been really fantastic. That's right, Degaitai, Land's End. And, I own some stuff from Land's End. I'll tell you right now, there's nothing wrong with owning anything from Land's End. But you don't want a whole outfit of Land's End. 1 or 2 pieces here and there to fill out your outfit is fine. You never want to go full Land's End. And it's funny. Make it gayer, says Steven. That's right. This is very not, and I think that's one of the reasons that I think that this is having trouble captivating audiences and trending. It's not for the TikTok crowd. Nobody's like, I don't care about Superman, but I would like to lick that person from head to toe. You just don't have that factor here. Okay. No, I don't know what Mr. Terrific, Dory does voice that says, what's the orientation of Mr. Terrific? I don't know. All I know is that he was in a recent comic written by Tom King, and he spent a lot of time with his shirt off, and it was an excellent comic. I was like, hey, Mr. Terrific could be something. And then I was so excited, and then I was a little disappointed in this casting. And I was going to say it a little later, but, for all the time these two guys spent in the gym, and a lot of you sent me a lot of Instagram photos. You were like, what do you think of Eddie Gathegi now, Grace? And I was like, yeah, he has worked out, but you'd never know it from these photos. They just totally covered up whatever progress they might have made at the gym. They look like healthy guys, but like healthy regular guys, right? Like, I don't know, the Superman movie makes you feel pretty good about yourself. You're like, if I put that outfit on, I think I'd look exactly like that right now. Okay. All right, so the immediate reaction from the internets. All right, so let's look at I have so many pictures loaded up. This is going to be beautiful. All right, so here's a full look at Superman. Oh, there he is. That is a baggy outfit, boy. He's got room to grow. He's a growing boy. So the immediate reaction from the internet basically depended on what camp you were in. Are you pro-Gunn or pro-Snyder? Even though the two of them claim to get along. So the colors. The colors are so bright. So half of the internet was like, I love the bright colors. Although a friend of mine said, what, that just come back from the cleaners? He's like, don't touch me. Don't touch me. This suit just got scotch guarded. I do think it should be a little bit more distressed. You're like, does that man do nothing in the field? And some people felt it was too bright. I kind of like the colors. I just would like it to be a little more distressed. Yeah, so that's one of the issues that you're like, so bright. They might fix it in post. We'll see. Then also some people were asking about the fabric. They're like, whoa, man, that fabric is clearly not from an alien planet. That's from like the local Woolworths or whatever, right? My friend also said Woolworths. My friend and I had a funny conversation about this. So you're like, that's definitely from Earth. Martha definitely made that. And by the way, Martha should work on her tailoring skills because that don't fit. But he doesn't want to criticize his mom. So he's like, I'll wear it. All right, so very wholesome, no alien tech. I don't know how I feel about the costume choice. I kind of liked the alien tech. I was even talking to my mom about this. And even my mom was like, doesn't the fabric come from a ship? And I was like, his cape does. His cape is supposed to come from a ship. And that didn't come from Krypton. That's a synthetic. It's not even a cotton. It's not even a cotton. It doesn't even breathe. Okay. Then I think a lot of people were like, and also, of course, the fit. Very loose. Very, very. We're not going to do any polls right now because it's just going to slow us down. We'll do some polls at the end. All right, that's right, Kryptonian Target, Paul. It was picked up at Kryptonian Target. A couple of my friends also pointed out that it looked very cosplay. I think at the bottom line, my reaction to these costumes is, you are definitely going to win the Halloween costume contest. It does not look like it's from a movie. So that's like a little bit of, that's, I think, my biggest issue. I don't feel it's a movie. And my friend said it was the deluxe costume from Party City. But yeah, the fit is very odd. It gaps in very odd places. It's not at all tight. It's a little bit weird. All right, so one of the other comments that people said is, why does it look so different than this? Now, it's not just lighting and the fact that it's distressed, but some people I saw on the internets pointed out that the collar looks a lot different. Maybe it's just the angle, but it looks less like a turtleneck, which I appreciate. He is kind of angled funny sitting down. Such a bad first look. This is a better first look. But it does look significantly different. It looks less like a jacket, thankfully, but it also looks more like, I could purchase this in a store. Hot Topic, Target. I don't feel like this is a special suit that only a superhero could get. You're like, where'd you get that? I bet there's more on the rack. Now, everybody was quick to point out that it's the Fortnite suit. And some people pointed out that a scooper, what is it? My Time to Shine, hello. There can be more than one woman in the scoop space. Thank you very much. And I'm even getting out of the scoop game because it's too dangerous. But anyway, it looks exactly like the Fortnite suit. Almost exactly. And James Gunn had responded to that. One of you sent me that yesterday when he had rolled his eyes. And I was like, always read between the lines with James Gunn. He sent the roll eye emoji, but not because it wasn't the right suit, but I think he was frustrated that it had leaked. Because, unless James Gunn literally says, and even then sometimes he's fudging, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. He's fudging the situation. If he doesn't actually say that's not it, it's probably it. Okay? So it's exactly the Fortnite suit. And I have to say, let's look at I got a full body shot for you there. It's the suit. It is that suit. But I I think you guys, some of you are saying Fortnite looks a little better. Fortnite does have a nice sheen to it. It looks more like metal, and it looks a little bit like the way they redid the Spider-Man suit at the end of No Way Home, which also looked really nice and shiny at night. That's right, that does look a little bit like a metal, which I think is why it looks a little bit better. And it does fit correctly because it's metal. And the trunks are not so big. They're a little bit tighter. He's got a Speedo on, not the full grandpa trunks. But anyway, I can see why someone would go, hey, let's do Fortnite. This came out in 2021. So you're like, oh, hey, if it's 2021 and if Fortnite's very popular with the kids, right? Maybe James Gunn thought this was like a safe choice. I think the real kicker will be if Clark Kent looks like that. If Clark Kent looks like this, James Gunn is going Fortnite. And I think there's a very good chance that's what he's going to look like. All right, so let's go back to the original photo because I want to make a point. So I was thinking about it, and I was like, why on earth would he go with such bright colors? What an odd choice. And it's so comics accurate to the point of you don't know even what to say. You're like, no, Superman, all right, right? And then I was like, you know what? It's Avengers 2012. It's exactly the exact same approach to the costumes. Very comics accurate, very bright colors, very, costumey. And I think that James Gunn is like, hey, he's from the Marvel Universe. That worked very well. So I think that's what he's going for. And that's exactly it. It looks exactly like it. I think this looks a little bit better when you look at like this close-up of them distressed. That looks a little better. That looks a little less bright. Okay? But it's the Avengers. He's definitely doing the Avengers approach to this. And that makes me think, hey, is this a de facto Justice League movie? Is he hoping, because, he has all these other characters that are going to be appearing here? Is that what he's going for, right? That's why he's bringing in Green Lantern and all that stuff. I think and Hawkgirl, I think there's a very strong chance that that's the approach that he's taking. And again, I understand it. I understand Fortnite. I understand Avengers. I think it's the wrong choice because you know what he's missing? What is he missing from the MCU? Let's see if anybody can guess. I've already talked about it. I played my hand. I tipped my hand. But let's see if you can guess what it is because he's missing a crucial MCU ingredient. All right, you ready? No. Oh, blowouts is pretty funny, Fabian. He's missing the beefcake. Where's the beefcake? Look at that. Oh, sexy time. Sexy time. And these guys look like very nice people, but there's no beefcake here. Everybody knows that Kevin Feige has made a lot of money off of setting thirst traps throughout the MCU, which have really he knows he's getting all the straight guys into the theater because they like comics. But how's he going to get the women and the gay community in there, right? As CM just said, how are you going to get the women and the gay men in there? It's the beefcake, right? Nobody ever talks about it, and I know some of you don't like to hear about it, which is probably why Kevin Feige doesn't talk about it, but you'd be crazy not to acknowledge that that is a very big part of why the MCU has succeeded. For instance, I'll never forget, I was talking to some women. I was making casual conversation with some women in an office, and I was like, oh, hey, are you going to go and see, I think it was Civil War or something? And one of the women said, I don't usually go see these movies, but I'm definitely going to see Chris Evans as Captain America. She was all over that. And I think that that is a really big part. And also, I think that for straight guys, it comes across as being very cool. Like, that guy's cool. That guy's awesome. Everybody else is loving him. I want to be like him. And I think this movie doesn't have that. Zack Snyder always would bring that as well. Zack Snyder would sometimes go a little bit too far. And then for those of you who don't know, the opposite of beefcake is cheesecake. So it's a very sexy look for men or a very sexy look for women. And in fact, Marvel has infamously not done the cheesecake. For some reason, they only do the beefcake. And it's worked for them, okay? Because again, the women still look great. We're going to talk about that. Guardians had beefcake in the beginning, LP. And that's interesting because I'm glad you bring that up because James Gunn has never really been into beefcake. He's never understood the importance of it. And I think in some ways he's paid the price. The first Guardians of the Galaxy, they beefcaked up Chris Pratt something fierce. He hasn't been able to maintain it, but he's still a good-looking guy. And so I think that still works in his favor, in the movie's favors. But yes, James Gunn's movies are the least beefcakey of the MCU, which is maybe why none of them have ever hit $1 billion. Because, people like the beefcake. I'm telling you, I know a lot of you don't like to hear it, but it's really, really important to the way why these movies do so well. And they simply do not have it here. Do you remember for Man of Steel? Although Man of Steel only got to about $600 million. But in that trailer, Henry Cavill was running around without his shirt on. And don't kid yourself about these two guys right here. It's really, really important. And I think that, again, Gathegi and Corenswet did hit the gym, but their costumes and the tailoring and the styling is not emphasizing that. They just look like nice guys. Like safe, nice guys. They don't have enough sex appeal. So I think that's important. All right. Now, so let's see here. So it's so on point, these characters. Again, for those of you who don't know what beefcake is a sexy version of guys, really playing up guys' sex appeal. And just the way sometimes some of you would say objectifying, okay? But that's Hollywood, that's entertainment, that's, I think that's always a part of these things. Hey, thank you, Sadie. And I think you're kidding yourself. I mean, you don't have to do it, but you're going to make less money. That's right, KJ. Where's the beef? I mean, you just have to obviously note. Andrew says, do you think that Wolverine in Deadpool has beefcake? I sure do. Because I think Hugh Jackman, even fully clothed, is still a pretty sexy guy. Hey, Jalen. And I bet you maybe he takes his shirt off at some point. He certainly has in the past. Bryan Singer, well, of course, Bryan Singer went on to do horrible things. But Bryan Singer also had that element in his films as well, actually, in the X-Men movies. The X-Men movies. And also, though, he brought the cheesecake. Never forget how important Mystique was to those early X-Men films. And the X-Men films suffered when they changed Mystique. I mean, I remember Rebecca Romijn telling stories saying, telling everybody, she's like, hey guys, I'm not naked, am I? And they were like, you're naked. And it worked. I mean, I am a woman and I'm a feminist to a large degree. And I loved that version of Mystique because she just looks so cool. That's beefcake and cheesecake done right. It doesn't even offend you because it looks so amazing. You're like, you look so great. I can't get upset about it. How you just look so fantastic. So that's kind of how it works. All right, so let's take a look at the overall cast for a minute here. Don't worry, we're going to go over these things in detail, okay? All right, the cast overall, there you can see there's Superman, Lois, Lex Luthor with a hat on, Jimmy Olsen, Perry White, Mr. Terrific, the character from The Authority, and then Miss Tessmacher, which is from the Gene Hackman version of Lex Luthor. So a lot of people are going to be like, who the heck is that? Although right now she's doing all the heavy lifting for the sexy. She looks great. Okay, I like her styling. All right. But I do think that these characters are so on point that it proves to be a little boring. You're like, you're like, yeah, those are those characters. And I think that the reason it was okay for Marvel, again, when you look at Marvel and you see how on point the Avengers are, okay? You're like, well, that was really on point, but they'd never been adapted before. I think that's a really big part of it. You are seeing those characters for the first time. You have seen so many of these, of the DC characters. Maybe that's one of the reasons Mr. Terrific hits the most, because he's kind of new, right? I mean, they did it on the CW. And actually, I think they did it a little bit better. Although I think the makeup on Mr. Terrific wins. But yeah, I think you've just seen it so many times. Oh, don't worry, I have Cat Grant here at the end. But yeah, so, I think, I just feel like that's part of the problem. I think it leaves you nothing really to talk about too much. We're going to talk about, that's right, Ethan, the bright colors haven't stuck around in Marvel, and we're going to discuss that in just a second. But yeah, I think that, there's no Gunn interpretation of these characters, and so there's less for you to talk about. You just go, yeah, that's the character, right? Now let's talk about Superman, all right? Now let's see here. Full Superman suit, where is it? There it is. Okay. So, yeah, this looks a lot like Superman. I don't care Bear is right. It's extremely literal. You're like, yeah, that's Superman. I can totally see it, right? It is a little frustrating that he's not in the Patton verse, Robert Pattinson verse, because, again, they fit together so well. But I would have gone, I can understand why, again, the Avengers 2012 and the Fortnite approach is very safe. But I'd have gone something closer to Cap's later suits. So let's look at the evolution of Captain America, okay? So the Captain America suit has evolved significantly. It's become more distressed, the colors have darkened, it's become more like a uniform instead of a costume. Superman, he's so invulnerable, he doesn't need armor. But then what the heck are all these like little details? If he doesn't have armor or plating, why the heck is it there? You're like, if it's not actually armor there, or knee pads, shoulder pads, why is he wearing it? Captain America's became very practical. Like, it still had the theming, but it was very, very practical. It looked great, actually. I think Cap's suit ended up looking phenomenal. So I would have gone something closer to what's gone on with Captain America and Homelander. No matter what you might think about Homelander from a political viewpoint, the guy looks fantastic. He looks really, really good. He's clearly an amalgam of Superman and Captain America, and he looks phenomenal. So I feel like they should have done something along these lines, and I agree with Lloyd that I think something tactical would have been a good idea. I would have gone darker colors. I would have made Superman look like he was ready to be in the field. It is a little dark this is the best shot I could find of Captain America in Endgame, but yeah, the lighting is also is dark, and the suit is dark, so it looks very dark. But it looks great. It looks really, really, really strong. And I think that this is just stuff that people can get a little bit more excited about. I don't think a lot of people would want to dress up as this Superman. That's the thing. Again, one of the things that makes people want to dress up as these characters is they feel they're going to get some by the end of the evening, right? Like, that's one of the reasons that Harley Quinn ended up being so popular. She's slutty Halloween personified. And I think when you see these other characters, you're like, yeah, the sex appeal radiates off of them. But you're not going to want to dress as David Corenswet Superman to go to your local party. Everyone's going to think you're a stick in the mud. They're going to think you're really boring. I think Mr. Terrific might be able to get it. But I don't know about Superman. I feel like you're not going to go with that costume for the party. Unless, you do a sexy take on it. You're like, I'll just sexy it up myself. Thank you very much. Clark isn't very sexy, but I don't know. You got to find a way to do it. All right. I feel like this review is turning into like, I found it offensive in the past, but that thing, that meme of wood, like wood, like when guys were talking about women. I feel like I'm doing that a little bit here, but that's the game, all right. So yeah, I would have gone in one of these two directions. I think that it's just, I think it looks better. All right. I will say, talking about Superman, I had some more stuff here. Hold on. My favorite thing, where'd it go? There it is. Look at the drape of that cape. I feel like a fashion designer. Look at the drape in the lines. The lines of that cape, the way it just falls on his back and just goes straight down. It looks regal. It looks like something out of like a painting. It's just beautiful. That's really nice. Yeah, Edna Mode says no capes, Tenerife, but I think if she saw this, she might change her mind. She's like, I don't usually like capes, but that one looks really good. And with the collar popping out the way it does, it's just gorgeous. You're like, I'd never turn around, Superman. I love the way you look. It's like, what's that famous line? I hate to see you go, but I love to watch you leave. That cape is gorgeous. It's just really beautiful. So I like that. We'll get back to Mr. Terrific, who's looking pretty good. Mr. Terrific did not skip leg day. All right, but back to the full look. I just have a few other things I want to say about the Superman full look here. As I said, if you're going to go BMX biker look, I think that it should be more fully a BMX biker look, not halfway there. He has armor, kind of looks like it's built into the suit, but yet doesn't look like it is. And then also, I wouldn't have gone with the trunks. I was team trunks until I saw him. And now I'm like, those look awful. He looks like he has a rubber belt on. I'm like, why are you even wearing that belt? At least Batman's has got stuff in it. Yours is just a rubber belt. And it looks like you have way too much clothing on. He does not look comfortable. I'd be like, dude. I mean, I like the new bat suit, but I just don't think this looks good. And also, usually with the bulge, we'll talk about the bulge for a second, but in a totally fashion context, usually the bulge is like sexy. Here the bulge is like, oh man, your suit doesn't fit, and are you getting enough support? I'm like, dude, I don't think you've got enough. I think your underwear, you're not wearing sports underwear, you know? I just feel like it just looks a little too loose down there. All right, so I don't know. All right. I mean, if you don't want to, I mean, like that I don't know what to tell you, man. I feel like a tailor. We got a measure over there. You know, what do you want from me? All right, so let's talk about Mr. Terrific, who I think looks really great. All right, so we'll go back to the cape because you can also see Mr. Terrific there. Let's get a little bit better look at Mr. Terrific. By the way, I would like to wear this outfit. I really love the way the pants go into the boots. You know, I'm so sick of most Superman and all superhero suits having the shoes look like they've got like the Halloween booty covers on them. That's like a legit cool boot. He looks fantastic. That is a great outfit. It makes me feel like they could do the Grant Morrison X-Men uniforms at some point. I mean, it just looks so good. I mean, it looks really, really good. And you see, those pants are tight, and he looks really good, right? Again, you're like, oh, I love to watch you leave, buddy. I mean, it looks good. So I wish that the rest of the outfit was that tight, because Eddie Gathegi did the work. Thank you very much. So that looks really great. I love that whole outfit. But let's take a look. He's also got the face card. Oh, he's got the face card. Let's make it bigger so we can see it. That's right. There's a peach in those pants. Mexican nacho. Okay. I can't help myself. All right. Boy, does that tee look good. That tee looks really, really good. That's the best I've ever seen that tee look. Usually I'm like, why would Mr. Terrific paint a tee on his face? I mean, we can see who he is. But now I'm like, that looks amazing. I mean, it just looks so cool. We'll talk about the hair in a second, Kareem. I don't love the hair. But he has a T on his face. So it's like a T for Mr. Terrific. And you can see it's here and here. And it looks really good. The way it makes also his lips pop, his eyes pop, his features pop. I mean, he looks, the T, the letter T. I mean, it looks really good. I guess a lot of you can't see it. Here you go, here. Look at that. Oh, it looks so good. It looks so good. I love it. All right. And the jacket's also very cool. Wait till he has his orbs flying around him. Mr. Terrific has like usually a couple orbs flying around him that are like his computer programs. It's very cool. He's like a Tony Stark who doesn't fly. He's supposed to be the smartest guy in the room, and he's got a lot of tech. But he's super smart. He's a little bit like Sage, Sister Sage over on The Boys. But yeah, his face looks fantastic. I do think the hair is an interesting choice. The hair, usually overall, James Gunn seems to be going for a timeless feel. I mean, it's not current, which I think is maybe an issue for him. Mr. Terrific does fly. It's been a while since I read a Mr. Terrific comic. I haven't seen him fly in any of the recent comics, but yeah, I guess he can fly. Yeah, I don't care what he does. I'm sure whatever he does, he's going to look amazing. All right, so as for the hair, it's a little retro. I agree with CM. It's a little 70s, a little 60s. It's a little black power, a little political in my opinion. I don't know if I would have injected that into the character. I think I would have just focused on making the character as sexy and cool as possible. And he looks pretty sexy and cool. But I'll be curious to see what the personality is like. But as for the hair, I would have gone with something very modern. I think that if anyone's going to dress like this character, they're probably going to change the hair. I think everything else looks perfect. And I think that, no, Cole. What I'm talking about with the political aspect is like the styling brings to mind the civil rights era in that time period. A little bit of the Black Panther area. The Black Panthers. So that's what I'm talking about. So I feel like, I believe some of you showed me the Mr. Terrific from the CW, who went with like a braided look, which I think was very cool. I just would have done something a little bit more current. That's what I would have done. I mean, some of you can disagree on how you think that the hair looks. That's totally your call. But some of you have agreed with me that it looks a little retro. So it's fine. but I just would have gone with like a current look, you know? As I said, I don't think a lot of people would do this exact style. I think they would change it to what they would want it to look better. You know, that's a good point, Jacob. The sideburns, I think, are a big part of what make it look that way. You know, it does have that kind of look. All right, you know, I'm trying, you know, I want to give Mr. Terrific his due, so I'm trying to be very careful in my conversation, but, you know, I want to be able to talk about him. I think he looks great. I think, as I said, I think he looks the best of the group. Okay, and as I said, I think that his orbs will work really well. Now, clearly, he is working with Superman, okay? He and Superman are working together. And I think that he's, you know, and even this was how he was used in the recent Tom King comic. And Tom King, of course, is advising James Gunn. He's one of the overall architects of the new DC. And the way they used Mr. Terrific was that he kind of is like someone who believes the guy, you know, he believes that something's amiss and he helps that person solve the mystery that's a problem for them. So I think that might be what's going on here. I think Superman has a problem. You know, there's been some rumors as to the storyline. And I think that Mr. Terrific is probably going to be one of the only people besides Lois who maybe believes in Clark, believes Superman is innocent, and is going to help him save it. I did say orbs, Leo. Mr. Terrific has these little like orbs that fly around him like an atom. So it's very cool. So yeah, so I think that's kind of what seems to be the story. So you're going to see them kind of almost being like a team up. They're going to be, I think, they're called T-spheres, points out I Don't Care Bear. So I feel like, you know, Superman and Mr. Terrific are going to be, it's going to be them versus the other Justice League characters we've heard of. All right, so let's take a look at some of the stuff. All right, so let's take a look at the Daily Planet cast, and I do have some thoughts about Lois. All right, so clearly they've been caught up in some kind of alien ship that's dropping them back off. Is it the evil alien ship? Is it a Lex Luthor vehicle? Is it Superman's vehicle? But clearly, you know, the whole, you know, we got a good look at the Daily Planet staff because they all came out of this orb. Speaking of orbs, hey, maybe it's Mr. Terrific's vehicle. That's very possible. All right. Now, I will say that the Superman and Lois vibe is adorable. All right, they look very cute together. We're going to talk about Lois in just a minute. But first, let's talk about just this vibe together. It does look a lot like out of the comics and the animated series, right? I think that's very cute. Here's one picture of them. Here's another. Oh, it's adorable. Then here's another. Look at them flirting at work. Okay, so I think that's very nice. I like that a lot. She seems a little bit more interested than he does, but maybe he's like, stop trying to give away my secret identity. I don't know you. Although, of course, I wonder, you know, I do wonder, will Lois know that Superman is Clark Kent, right? Are people going to want to go back to square one and have her figure it out all over again? Or is she going to know? I haven't heard. I think she should know. I don't want to go through the whole thing of her being like, where's Clark? You know, like we've seen so many Superman stories at this point. I don't want to, you know, go back to square one. All right. So hold on. Let me make sure I know where I am in my notes. All right. Let's talk about Lois. Now, this is Rachel Brosnahan. She plays Mrs. Maisel for many seasons on Prime Video, did a wonderful job. And yes, she also had a very small part in the first season of House of Cards. But for the most part, she's played Mrs. Maisel. And I do think they've done a very nice job giving her like a softer look. So you can see her here, a nice softer look. All right? And she does have a purple top on, and Lois usually wears purple from the comics to the animated series. You know, she, of course, famously wore a purple suit jacket. Now, I will say, some of you know, Haunted Autumn keeps saying Gale Weathers, and I would say, yeah, with the same equally bad dye job. I think that her hair looks a little bit too much like a wig. In fact, both she and Superman look like they went to the same salon, which was like a budget salon, right? They went to Supercuts, and someone just dumped a box of black hair dye on their heads. Where is the highlighting and lowlights? I think it would be, you know, I think that her hair, just like Courtney Cox's, by the way, is Gale Weathers, you know, is just a little bit too matte. You know, I think it's missing. I think that her makeup looks really good and has like a nice softness to it, but I think the hair just doesn't look just exactly the way it should. Now, as for the pants, on the one hand, I'm glad she's wearing pants. I think that's very nice, okay? I mean, she's an action character. She has to go report from the field. Of course she's going to wear pants. But I will say, she went full Land's End. That is an entire outfit from Land's End, complete with then a set of like Dockers type shoes. I would not have done that, all right? I think that I wanted to show you some comparisons. Here's Margot Kidder and Gwyneth Paltrow as Lois Lane, and then also Pepper Potts. And I think they played human love interests who were in the business world. And I think they looked a little bit better. I think I would have worn these costumes, but I would have just then put them with pants. I think the pants could be a little bit tighter. I think, I wouldn't wear heels, but I'd maybe wear a little bit more flattering of a sneaker. I think that if you look at Gwyneth Paltrow's tops, they're a little bit more tailored, and I think that they are a little bit more interesting. You know who also had great clothes? I didn't grab the pictures. If you've ever watched Veep, Selena Meyer, Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character, every time I watched that show, I was like, where did she get that outfit? Selena Meyer always looked incredible. And I also think that Margot Kidder has some really interesting, clever shirt choices. Again, it's hard to dress for the office as a woman. You have to come in with something interesting every day. It's very, very difficult. Guys have it a little bit easier, although maybe not as much today. I think guys, the playing field in terms of expectations in fashion is evening out. But I feel like, it looks a little bit better, with Margot Kidder and Gwyneth Paltrow. And I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of that with Lois. I just think, women should go to this movie and be like, where'd you get that outfit? That's what I think would be a little bit of a better choice. Elliot says, don't you think she should look comfortable? No, I don't think she should look comfortable. This is a movie. This is not real life. As Alfred Hitchcock so famously said, the cinema is not a slice of life, it's a slice of cake. And, I think that you have to look really good. And I know that some of you like Lois, and I think that's great. And I think Rachel Brosnahan is very well cast. But I think in terms of getting casuals in, I think that there's just a bit of an issue. So I hope the performance is really strong. I think the performance and the action and the story is going to sell a lot of this. And I would advise everybody to always never go for comfort. I think this is a lesson that everybody has to learn in life. I've learned it. I've been guilty of dressing for comfort over fashion, and I always regret it. And I just don't think Lois is a superstar reporter. Now, I know that the comics have recently changed her persona to be the type of person who would dress like this, but that's why Lois Lane isn't as popular a character anymore. When Lois was really fashionable and could hold her own against Wonder Woman, that needs to be the thing. Superman prefers a mortal, Lois Lane, to Wonder Woman, to Maxima. All the super ladies are hitting on Superman all the time. And he's like, sorry, ladies, Lois is the only one for me. Now, of course, I'm sure her personality is a factor and the things that she's accomplished, and he looks up to her in terms of her profession. But I think she also needs, it shouldn't be that much of a head scratcher. You need to be like, yeah, she looks fantastic. All right, so let's take a look at the whole group. All right. You wanted to hear my thoughts on it. All right, so there's the Daily Planet staff overall. Lois, Perry, Steve Lombard, Jimmy Olsen. I'm a little disappointed in Jimmy Olsen. Jimmy Olsen's supposed to have a little bit of a nerd vibe. He looks a little bit too cool, and he doesn't have very red hair, even though it is natural red hair. Then you've got another member of the staff. I forgot that character's name. Hold on. I'll find it. Ron Troop, okay? And then Cat Grant there at the end, Cat Grant. I think these characters will all have very small roles, and I think they'll have probably the classic James Gunn style of humor. He does, that's funny. the actor Skyler playing Jimmy Olsen does look almost exactly like Miles Teller, right? He looks a lot like him. But you're right. I think that, Jimmy Olsen, I don't know. He doesn't, I guess he's not an intern here, but I just don't think, he doesn't scream Jimmy to me. I think he's the only one who's a little bit off. Kat Grant, Tammy, is the Daily Planet's entertainment reporter, so that you can see her there. Okay, so let's go back to the overall cast, and then that's my thoughts on it. There's everybody for the most part, and we'll do the Q&A section of the live stream. Thank you very much for joining me for this. Even if you're not a member, I see you there, and I really appreciate your interest. Thank you for joining me for this. All right, so any questions or comments about this? We'll go for like 5 minutes. So it's, we'll do 10 minutes. It's 2:35 till 2:45. Cosmic says, what are you hoping for Lex? Well, I think that Lex is going to probably be exactly like everybody else here. He's going to probably wear a really nice suit. And I think, and I'd be curious to see if he goes, if James Gunn goes with the, the more colorful Gene Hackman version of the character that Kevin Spacey also paid homage to in Bryan Singer's version. Or if they go with, the more comic book, very sharp suit version of the character. I think because they were, although, Alexander Skarsgård's a little loopy too, so I'm still not quite sure. Let's see here. iHeart Movies says, oh, that's very sweet of you, iHeart Movies. I'm so glad you enjoyed my breakdown. Morphed says, hey Grace, what are your box office predictions given these first looks, or is it too early? It's too early. I don't know what the lineup is around it. I don't see what the story is. I need to see what the view count is on the trailer. I can see that I think that comic book fans are very interested in this, but I think that the general population is not that interested as of yet. Let's see here. Danny says, hey Grace, based on Superman's suit, what could Supergirl's suit be? I bet you she's wearing the skirt. I think she's going to look a lot like the comic book version, that the movie is based on, Woman of Tomorrow. It will be okay says, who is the woman with braids and dressed in black? That is a character from The Authority. I think she's going to be one of the villain type characters. Yep, Dem, I wouldn't peg this at 400. I think 400 is a little too low. I think this might come in around the first Superman movie with around 600. That's what I'm thinking right now when I see it. But, it's very early. Very early days. It could tank. It could be a Flash. I thought The Flash was a great movie. By the way, I'd like to clarify. I think I'm probably going to like this movie. But I don't know if general audiences are going to like it. And I said that the very first time that James Gunn came on board. I said, and just as I said at the beginning of the stream, I think that James Gunn will satisfy the core fandom, but I don't think he's going to be able to create something that is able to really excite and energize the general public. But you never know. Inside Out 2 is a very, but it's been a long time since that came out. I think the general public is a little superheroed out, which is also an issue. Oh, that's right, Sean, the engineer. Sean says, I'm guessing the engineer is getting her origin story in this film since she's not yet metallic. Well, yeah, we'll see what maybe she can turn metallic, this is just her on set, and that, of course, would be a VFX effect. Adam's Fear says, I don't think Superman himself is a big sell. Superman has historically been a difficult sell. You'll see that's why Superman movies, he, of course, was the first comic book movie, which was a really big deal with Christopher Reeve. But there's a reason they started adding Batman to all of his movies, with Snyder. Because Superman, he's just been always a tough sell. I think that even as a comic book, the character is difficult. And I also think that they've done a little bit too much on the CW. I think the CW, I know some of you will defend it with your life, but I think the CW did too much. I think that the CW had these characters that just oversaturated and overwhelmed the market. Maggie Powell says, I think Lex should be modeled after an evil Jeff Bezos. Make him seem like a quirky businessman in public, but sinister behind the scenes. Well, Jeff Bezos has more of a Bill Gates, computer guy kind of look. And that's not Nicholas Hoult at all. Although I gotta tell you, Nicholas Hoult has been a real curse on any project he's been associated with. So I would not have cast him. I mean, I feel bad for Nicholas Hoult because I like him and he's been trying so hard to get his big break for so long. But I've seen so many projects that he's been a part of not connect. And it might be him. And so I would have really hoped, I really wish that, imagine if Alexander Skarsgård was here. I think the movie would be better. I would have just camped outside Alexander Skarsgård's house or hotel room and said, what's it going to take for you to do this? I wouldn't do, who said an Elon Musk? Someone said, Yap Dem. I would not make this political. Look what happened to the boys. I don't need that kind of problem for this movie if I was producing it. I'd be like, the boys is already doing politics. I want everyone to enjoy this. Dancing Dog 60 says, I'm sold on this so far. Looking forward to a trailer. That's fantastic. I'm glad you're excited about it. Ace Spence says, aren't James Gunn's movies very well regarded? They are for Marvel, but outside of Marvel, he has not performed well. And Peacemaker was very niche. I mean, it definitely has its fans, but it failed to have a lot of crossover appeal. Let's see here. Sean, the blonde woman here, right here, that's Miss Tessmacher, who was in the original Richard Donner movies. She's kind of like an earlier version of Mercy Graves. She's more of like the blonde ditzy assistant, instead of like the cool customer that Mercy Graves is. You know, Pom Klementieff has been going around saying that she's been talking to James Gunn about a character, a specific character, and they haven't revealed who it is, but some people have guessed that it would be Mercy Graves, and I think that's an excellent guess. I don't know if they would upgrade that quickly to who Lex's assistant is, but Pom Klementieff would be an excellent Mercy Graves. Connor says, I'm looking forward to a super type character that won't make me feel uneasy, like Homelander does. I love Homelander. I think he's such a complex, interesting character. But yeah, I mean, if you swapped out Pom Klementieff and Alexander Skarsgård for this movie, I think it would already be in a lot better shape. Like the casting is just light. You know, if you put Damson Idris as Mr. Terrific, I mean, it would just be a stronger film. Let's see here. Well, you see, Poke says he can't wait to hear Nicholas Holt's Lex scream Miss Tessmacher, but that's like such a dated reference. Like you'd have to be like you'd have to have seen the original movies like when they came out, or you'd have to really be a hardcore fan to even get that joke. J. Jonah Jameson, yes, his Suicide Squad did not do well, although James Gunn's, very, very vocal defenders would argue that it was during the pandemic, and of course the film was on Max as well. And, that's a fair comment to make, so you can't totally judge the performance. But it did seem to me to be weak. And again, I do sometimes worry about James Gunn from a taste standpoint. However, I did really like The Last Guardians of the Galaxy and his Christmas special that he did. I thought those were both excellent. Danny, I wouldn't call the cast weak, but I would call the cast soft. This is a very soft cast. It's not a zing. You're not like, whoo! You're not like, oh, wow, look at that. You're like, yeah, that's them. Two more minutes. Mystic says it's a Netflix cast. That's an interesting thing, but I think even Netflix, it's not like a Stranger Things cast. Sean says the marketing was to blame for the James Gunn Suicide Squad movie. Potentially. I mean, it certainly had its moments. I thought there were parts of his Suicide Squad movie that were quite well done. I liked Polka Dot Man, and I thought that the Peacemaker versus Rick Flag standoff was incredible. Riley Steele, Matt Reeves has a different DC universe. It's an Elseworlds, which I think is very frustrating because, James Gunn has clearly built something that fits with it exactly. So I don't understand why. I mean, maybe he's holding out. Oh, yeah, Ratcatcher, Kyle. Ratcatcher was also great. And Daniela Melchior was a wonderful discovery on James Gunn's part. But yeah. It's funny to Guy Ty, you said that the Suicide Squad had too many deep-cut characters. And I think that's a bit of the issue with the Superman choices as well. Guy Gardner, Hawk Girl, and they already did Hawkman at Black Adam. I think it's too soon. I think these are very similar. Jack Langboy says, what's your favorite Superman story? Well, I've said before that back in the day when I was writing for comics, my favorite Superman story is Superman for All Seasons. I thought that was really a wonderful Superman story. Very classic, very well done. But to me, and I was talking to someone about this the other day, what's always interested me the most was about how would Superman fight hate? Like, how would Superman deal with the world today? I always think that's very interesting because, he's such a kind person. And I did two things with DC. I had submitted one story that got me talking to them in the first place back in the day. And that was a story where Superman refused to hit a woman. And so he was fighting Roxy Rocket, and he really had a hard time taking her down because of that. And also, Lex Luthor was able to use that to make Lois a little bit jealous because why was Roxy Rocket getting special treatment? Then another comic I had wanted to write was Superman dealing with meth, an alien version of meth as a breakout in Smallville. Because how would he fight the destruction of Main Street and the community? I always thought that was really interesting. It's one thing to fight the alien drug, but how do you fight what's making people want to take it? And just to see what happened to Smallville. To me, those are things that are very interesting and are very modern takes on Superman. I don't know if DC would be willing to do those things with the character. And Superman, it's very hard to tell Superman stories, which is why the best Superman stories are always commentary on Superman. Superman Red Sun is very interesting. Homelander is very interesting. These are all very interesting versions because they're able to do more with the character than DC is itself. And that's always been the problem with Superman. So, thanks, Jack Langboy. That's very kind of you to say. I really appreciate that. And Invincible. Morphed. That's another good comparison. Invincible as well. And Injustice. These are all, more interesting than Superman. Because Superman is a really wonderful archetype, but he's a very difficult lead. And I think that that's why his stories have always struggled. And I think that, I don't know if playing it safe is the right call to do something for Superman. You're right, Kyle. For the Man Who Has Everything is a wonderful Superman story. But one of the reasons it's so good is because Batman and Wonder Woman are in the comic as well. And, and that's why, people really were interested in Batman v Superman and the Justice League movie to some degree because, again, Superman was part of a group. Superman is good as part of an ensemble. I think Superman in his own story is very difficult. All right, it's 2:47 already. I better get going. I had a wonderful time talking to you about this. And again, as I said, I suspect that I will appreciate this film. I don't know if I'm going to love it, but I think I'm going to appreciate it as a DC fan. But I don't know how it's going to, as a fan, I'm like, oh yeah, that's nice. But as a business person, if I was to put on my business hat, I have concerns. And I think that it's not. I don't think it'll be a bad movie. Although you never know these days, because I thought The Flash, I agree with James Gunn. I thought The Flash was a good movie, and people just turned on it. And I think that you never know. People could end up turning on this movie as well. I mean, you just don't know what's going to happen, what the context is going to be when it drops. But I don't think it'll be a bad movie. But it might be a movie where people just aren't that interested. People might decide to stream it. Are people going to see this in theaters? Are they going to see it in theaters multiple times? These are all the questions you need to know. So we'll see what happens. All right, everybody. Thank you. I had a great time, and I'll see you soon. I'll see you for the live stream. There will be a live stream again tomorrow, and there will be a live stream on Friday. Those are the live streams this week. Okay, everybody. Bye.